On the 9th of October 2022, a horrible discovery was made at the factory in Johannesburg. That morning, it was said that the caretaker of a panel beating company decided to carry out his daily inspection of the building, when upon he began perceiving a very terrible smell. And with his curiosity, he decided to know where that smell was coming from. Was it a dead animal, or was it something more horrifying? His suspicion could not be far from true when he traced the smell to one of the many offices in the building, only to find the decomposing body of a young woman. The caretaker panicked and quickly called the security man, asking him to call the police instantly. At the same time, the caretaker informed the owner of the company, telling him that he had just discovered something terrible: the decomposing body of an unknown woman. This was clearly serious, as it seemed that someone had died in their building. Who was she? How did she get there? Was she killed somewhere else and dumped in that panel beating factory? Or did someone bring her there alive to kill her and leave her there? Maybe to frame them, or maybe to set them up. The police was soon involved, and the security man of the factory was questioned. Only him would know when this woman entered, and only him would know if she ever left, or at least who brought her there. And that was when the security man revealed something shocking in the presence of the police, the caretaker, and the owner of the factory. When asked who the woman was and how she got there, the security man was certain that it was the 19-year-old son of the owner of the factory that brought that strange woman into the building. The security man recollected seeing 19-year-old Sifiso Makwanase coming into the factory with the said woman some days back. And at first, the father of Sifiso did not believe, because this was unbelievable. No father would want to hear that it was their son who had killed somebody in their own family business. Eventually, the security man decided to go through a series of CCTV footages, going back to the day that Sifiso is believed to have brought this said woman to the building. And with that, the security man was able to provide evidence of this 19-year-old boy coming into the factory with a woman. However, the CCTV footage did not show this woman leaving the factory with the boy. It only showed Sifiso leaving the factory alone, which meant that he was the one who brought the woman there, and whatever may have happened to that woman, only he would know. Instantly, Mr. Makwanase decided to go fetch his son, because the police were on the case. The police were already there. The police were there when the confession was made. Sifiso was in another town, but that did not stop the father. And it was said when Sifiso saw his father from afar, he knew what he had come for, and he attempted to run. But unfortunately for him, he was caught and arrested and handed to the police. Upon arresting him, the police decided to do their investigation. The factory was sealed for crime scene, and the police did more searching, only to find out that there were 5 more dead bodies hidden at different parts of that building. And these were bodies of young women, 2 of whom were said to be pregnant. It was at this point that the CCTV footages were reviewed again, only to discover that all 6 women whose body were found in this factory had been brought in at different times by this 19-year-old boy. And all 6 women were not recorded to leave the building every time he brought them in, which made the police believe that they were dealing with a serial killer. And all the bodies were at different stages of decomposition. An investigation would reveal that he may have done this killing within the space of 7 months. Some other sources claim he may have done it within the space of 3 weeks. But 7 months is more plausible, because in 3 weeks, killing 6 women, well, let's not assume that that wouldn't be possible. It seemed possible. For a serial killer, that is just a small number. It would also be revealed that all 6 women were said to be sex workers, of whom Sifiso had patronized for their services. Only that he never took them to a hotel room, nor did he take them to his house. He only brought them to his father's factory when it was closing time. When Sifiso was arrested, he confessed to the murder of these women. However, it was said he wasn't remorseful. What was even funny, that he did not plead guilty to premeditated murder. He claimed that he did not plan to kill these women, that the killing only happened in the instant that he was with them, that with each of these women they had an argument, and he found himself having to defend himself or having to dilute the situation by strangling them to death. In some instances, he claimed that the women tried to increase their prices right there and then, which was not the same price they had agreed from where he had picked them from. And that would lead to an argument, and it would lead to fights, and according to him, it would lead to him having to silence them forever. But here is the thing: the prosecution during the court proceedings believed that the murders may have been premeditated. That in the past, Sefisiso had an issue with a sex worker, where the sex worker accused him of raping her, and that issue was so big that it landed him in jail. So they are deducting that because of that incident, whenever he wanted to patronize a sex worker, he would kill them so that they don't accuse him of rape, or so that whatever happened in the past don't happen again. Another theory believed that he was just doing this as a sign of revenge and punishment for what the other sex worker had done to him. But Sefisiso doesn't agree with those theories. He claimed that he did not plan to kill these women ahead of time, that the killing only happened in the instant when he was with them due to an argument. And personally, I don't believe. I mean, if it was one killing, yes. If it was two women you killed because they shifted their price or they tried to fight you, yeah, we can maybe believe that. But 6 women, and you had to dump them at different sites, at different parts of the factory within a space of how many months? Nah, young man, you knew what you were doing. This was not manslaughter. This was premeditated murder. You knew what you were. If it's possible that there were sex workers within these women that you had brought there and they somehow made it out alive, then maybe we can believe you. But I don't think any woman he had ever brought to his father's factory to do 1 or 2 with came out alive. So it was clear that he meant to kill them. And that was why he took them there. Because why can't you take them to a hotel? Who brings a prostitute to a factory? Who brings a sex worker to a panel beating factory? It's so low budget. It was clear that they didn't change their price. You just never had the money to afford them. Because if you had the money, you would have taken them to a hotel. During the court proceedings, they discovered that some of the women may have also been tied up, and one of them was shot, which furthermore proved that this young man knew what he was doing. And the court did not buy the claims that it was in the moment or it was not premeditated, because that was what he was going for. That was what his lawyers were going for. They were trying to find a way to get him to do manslaughter charges, because manslaughter and premeditated murder carry different weights. If it is proven in court that he had pre-planned the killing of these women, then he would go for premeditated murder, which would give him life sentence or even death sentence. But this young man knew what he was dealing with. This young man knew how the law would work. That was why he did not want to plead guilty for premeditated murder, but rather wanted to settle for manslaughter or any other lesser sentence that have to do with killing somebody that was not premeditated. But his plan did not work, because where did you even get the gun to kill one of them from? Why are you holding a gun to pick up a prostitute if you did not plan to use the gun? Another thing again that will probably make this case glaring is the fact that we've seen it before. There used to be the story of a particular serial killer that we talked about in our top 20 serial killer in Africa. One serial killer had this same mentality. I remember the story. I'm not sure which of the serial killer, but he had similar background to his villain origin. According to what I remember in that story, the serial killer was once accused of rape in the past. And ever since then, whenever he forcefully forces himself on a woman, he would need to silence them because they would know his face and they would go to the police, which automatically turns a serial rapist to a serial killer. But for Sefisiso, I just feel it was most likely a case of revenge. Although it was discovered through autopsy and through DNA that he may have actively had sexual intercourse with the women that he killed, at the same time, there was still a part of him that hated or regretted his first experience that got him in so much trouble and made him have so much hatred for this type of women in this type of job. In September of 2024, Sefisiso was eventually found guilty and sentenced to life. He was also sentenced for sexual assault of the women and also sentenced for possessing firearms and also sentenced for obstructing justice. So he is done for. He is going to prison. His father was actually very happy. His father could not wait to hand him to the police. And I think that was good for the father. Most families that we know, that we've seen in some countries, I don't want to name any name, Nigeria, I won't, they would want to cover up for their children. They would want to cover up for their child killing young women in hotels. Go as far as trying to pay their way out of it. But the moment Sefisiso's father heard, or the moment it was speculated that it was his son who did it, he used his both hands to take that child and hand him over to the police. For what is what, if he did not do that, he would have been the one suspected. We know how these things go. He would have taken the fall because these killings and these bodies were discovered in his property. So, and I think it was important for him to give up his son. But why would he want to even keep a child like that? Because he wouldn't stop, obviously. Even in court, he wasn't remorseful. He had to go through a mental evaluation. And they said that his heart is like that of stone, that he didn't care for the lives of these women. He enjoyed every bit of killing them, and that he wouldn't stop. There was a particular sex worker that was interviewed regarding this story, and she recalled being almost a victim of this young man. She claimed that she was standing on the road with all the other sex workers, and Sefisiso drives in his car and asked her if she could speak a language, and she said she couldn't. Then Sefisiso moved on to get another sex worker, and that was the last time that sex worker was seen again. And this woman giving the interview was so grateful because it could have been her. And she was a 40-something-year-old woman standing on the street with kids at home to feed. So you can imagine. My thing is, for so long, I feel like the police would have investigated and this Sefisiso guy would have been caught faster. Because when the news came out, many of the sex workers knew him. They recognized him. A lot of these sex workers had seen his face multiple times, which is funny because if the lives of these women were valued as much, their disappearance within the months that they had been taken and killed would have been looked into, and maybe Sefisiso would not have gotten 6 women. Maybe, if not for the fact that this caretaker perceived something, this boy would have continued the killing. And I got to learn that most of the sex worker women are from Zimbabwe, and they were working in Johannesburg, South Africa. So I'm assuming, given the South Africa background relation with other foreign African countries, I'm assuming the disappearance of these women, since they were Zimbabweans, were not taken seriously. Their identity, their disappearance really did not encourage the police to push further. So that left room for them to continue being the target. But if the first girl who had gone missing was investigated properly, or the second, there is a high chance that Sefisiso would have been caught earlier and he would not have needed to kill 4 more women. One thing that surprised me most with this story is the age of this boy. You see, lately we've been dealing with stories where we see young boys do the killing. Back in the day, go and watch our serial killer video from Africa. Back then, serial killers were old. The youngest back then was not that Kenyan guy who was 20-something? But these days, we are seeing serial killers being 19, being 20, being 18. It's just weird that the age for men being monsters is now reducing. And a lot of these women that this 19-year-old boy would have taken would have been older women, because one of the women there was like 40-something. So I'm assuming that could have been the case. And many of these women would have probably trusted him or felt safe because he's a small boy. Just a 19-year-old boy. He probably is a virgin. He probably is so scared. This might be his first time, so they will follow him to it. I'm so sorry. This is just my imagination, but if I was a sex worker, I'm not going to follow nobody to a factory. Like, come on. You're a sex worker. You're not stupid. If you're going to do prostitution, have a little bit of standard, somewhat. Just a factory, a panel beating factory. I'm not blaming the victims, but come on, that is creepy. It's a red flag. How do you follow a man into a factory building and you're seeing, like, it's weird. Maybe they thought because the building does look like it would have some kind of apartment in it or some kind of comfortable room. Well, I see why they would fall for it. It's not your typical factory. So maybe that was why. But if you're finding out that it's a factory or it's a very secluded area, it's just leave. Another thing again is the security man also, who keeps seeing this boy bring these women back and forth, should have known something sooner. He should have seen something. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't just paying attention, or maybe he never really cared because this is the son of the owner of the building, so let me not worry. Let me not monitor him before he tells his father to fire me. So I'm assuming that could have been the mentality of the security man. But it's just crazy. It's just weird. These days, young girls got to be careful of young girls. Back in the day, I used to have this mentality that if you're a young girl, date your age, because these older people, some of them may want to use it for rituals. But now, look at them. The younger ones are the ones now doing the ritual killing, and they're the ones doing the serial killing. It just keeps getting difficult for women out there. So please, you all stay safe. Don't forget to like, share, comment your thoughts. And if you haven't subscribed, please click the subscribe button and turn on notification. Whenever there is a new video, you'll be the first to get notified.